Om Ajnanathimiranthasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we'll discuss Chapter 2 entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, and we're on text number 10. I have to apologize. I don't know how long the class will go, but I have a bit of a cold, so my voice sounds a little funny. Please tolerate. In his own commentary on this verse, Sridhar Swami, the famous Bhagavatam commentator, he also wrote a commentary on Bhagavad-Gita, and he says, in case you haven't noticed, that this answers the question that naturally arises when we hear the previous verse, text number 9. Sanjaya uvacha evam uktva hrishikesham gurakesha parantapa na yotsya iti govindam uktva tushtim bhubhuvaha. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjun, chastiser of the enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. That's kind of a cliffhanger, so you wonder what happened next. Now he says, Tamuvacha hrishikesha prahasanniva bharata senayorubhayor madhye vishidantamidam vachaha tam unto him uvacha said Hrishikesha, the master of the senses, Krishna, Prahasan, smiling, Iva, like that, Bharata, or Dhritarashtra, descendant of Bharata, Senayoho, of the armies, Ubhayoho, of both parties. Madhye, between, Vishidantam, unto the lamenting one, Idam, the following, Vachaha, words. So once again, this is Bhagavad-Gita chapter 2, text number 10. Translation. O descendant of Bharata, at that time, Krishna, smiling, in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Please repeat. O descendant of Bharata, at that time, Krishna, smiling, in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Purport. Well, you know what I'm going to do actually? I'm going to walk you through the purports of the predecessor acharyas on this verse, because I think it gives us a greater appreciation of what Srila Prabhupada has said here. So, I mentioned already, Sridhar Swami in his commentary on Bhagavad-Gita points out that this verse begins the answer to the question that was implicit in the last verse. The last verse kind of begs the question, well, what happened? Arjuna throws down his bow and says he's not going to fight. So we want to know. And this is the answer. In the midst of both the armies, Krishna speaks to the depressed Arjuna. Vishidantam means he was depressed. We use this word in modern language, depressed. That was his situation. And he spoke the following words. We don't know what those words are yet, because that would give away the plot. But Baladev Vidyabhushan, in his commentary on Bhagavad-Gita, points out that actually this verse, although it looks like a conjunction between the preface, so to speak, of the Bhagavad-Gita, the scenario that's been painted so far, and the actual gist of the Bhagavad-Gita, which is in the instructions given by Krishna to Arjuna, it looks like a conjunction only, but it actually is very important. Ramanujacharya in his commentary explains why it's important. He says that actually everything that occurs, everything that Krishna speaks, or everything everywhere the conversation goes between chapter 2, text 12, that's 2 verses from now, and 1866, which is virtually the last word of the Bhagavad-Gita, that follows from this verse. That constitutes what Krishna spoke. So this verse is a very important. If it's an introduction, it's a very important one. And moreover, the important thing the important thing is that Arjuna was absorbed in bodily consciousness at this time, Dehatma. And Krishna used the transcendental wisdom of things as they are, yatatma jnanam, nimitta, shokavishtam, unto the person who was shokavishta, absorbed in suffering. That's how Ramanujacharya glosses Vishidantam. Because if you're depressed, you're absorbed in suffering. That suffering is a symptom or a characteristic. It's an indispensable characteristic, as a matter of fact, of this dehatma buddhi, the bodily concept of life. So our Krishna, by means of speaking so much gyan about the way things actually are, spiritual gyan, he wanted to illumine Arjuna as to the fact of the matter, which is that he was beyond the body and the mind. We actually don't realize this as much as we think we do, and we realize that we don't realize it when we have to undergo tremendous suffering. That's why the suffering exists in this world. And when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then Krishna takes personal charge of that suffering, and he administers it. The word administer is a medical term. When you administer medicine, we use this term. So he administers the suffering in accordance to his view of what we need. And that can't be an easy process. I almost want to say it's traumatic. But it does the job. It raises one from out of the bodily concept of life. Anyone ever had a near-death experience? Yeah. So you may have some idea. Or, anyway, there are so many things that life can throw at you. If you haven't experienced them yet, just wait until you go into Saturn Mahadasha. Then you'll figure it out. All right, so anyway, this is the point. And they're talking so many things about what is dharma and what's not dharma. Arjuna in particular is talking like this, but he actually doesn't know what he's talking about. And Krishna has already pointed this out. Why he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is an important point that is raised by, I think, Jayatirtha in the Madhva Sampradaya. It's not that the arguments that Arjuna has presented to Krishna so far are not based on Shastra. They are. We know from chapter 17, text number 15 of Bhagavad-Gita, if we read Bhagavad-Gita, which we should. How many people read Bhagavad-Gita every day? Okay, yeah, you're all here. That's a good sign. So you know what Srila Prabhupada explains in chapter 17, text number 15. Krishna says the austerity of the speech is to speak what is truthful and beneficial and not agitating, etc. And Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, it also means to back up what we are saying with Shastric references. It's very common for people to say so many things about even Krishna consciousness, but they don't have any reference to the Shastra. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. It may not be apparent. The size of the problem may not be apparent in the beginning. But if you add 1 plus 1 and get 3, then all further calculations are going to be wrong, necessarily. And that's what happens. Because when we don't speak from Shastra, and when we don't corroborate our alleged realizations with reference to the Shastra, which is perfect authority, Shabda, then we necessarily have to adopt one of the other means of knowing. What are the other two? What your senses tell you, that's called pratyaksha, or what you speculate, that's called anuman. So we speculate, or we see things with imperfect senses. Either way, it's wrong, necessarily wrong. Arjuna was not in this category. All of Arjuna's categories, he's been himself, up until this point in chapter 1 in particular, and in the beginning of chapter 2, he's been pointing out to Krishna, this is what I've heard from disciplic succession. These are Shastric arguments. They're not incorrect. What is incorrect is his attitude. His attitude is dehatma buddhi, in the bodily concept of life. Therefore, Ramanujacharya points out here that Krishna is smiling, prahasanniva. Iva usually means almost like smiling, but that's not how Prabhupada translates it here. Prabhupada says smiling like that. He was actually smiling. Both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhushana, they point out that the significance of this word, prahasan, smiling, is that the Lord was suppressing a smile, because it's not very nice to laugh at someone who has come to you and revealed his mind in confidence and surrendered as a disciple. Has Arjuna done this yet? Has he surrendered as a disciple? Well, he said he did. But then after two verses later, he said, I'm not going to fight. That means he was, what we say, oscillating. He was on the mental platform. But he definitely surrendered. Back in text number 7, he says, Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. It means directly that. I'm surrendered unto you. So Baladev Vidyabhushan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they both point out for us that Krishna could have completely smashed Arjuna at this point. Already what he's spoken in the last few verses is strong. What has Krishna said so far? Well, actually, it's coming. Ashocyanan vashochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasunshcha narushocanti panditaha. He's smiling because he's thinking like this. He hasn't said it yet. It's the very next verse. But he's smiling because he's thinking, I can really humiliate you. I can drown you in the ocean of humiliation right now if I want to, because what you said is so stupid and ignoble. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. But he's not doing that. Therefore, he's suppressing his smile because he appreciates Arjuna at least has come and surrendered. I can see he's mental and he's still refusing to fight, but he has surrendered, so I'm going to go lenient. I'm going to go easy on him. This is the point. So, that's another point. Now, Senayor Upayor Madhye, this is the third line of the verse. What does it mean? In the midst of both sides of the battle, both parties. That means that Arjuna's dejection, or as I said, his depression, and Krishna's chastisement, if you will, everybody saw it. It was plain for everyone to see. There were no secrets here. That is its significance, according to these acharyas, of the words Senayor Upayor Madhye. So, and again, it emphasizes the fact that Krishna really could have, in front of all the generals, we've already heard, Krishna says, or we're going to hear, that for someone who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. And he's, in various places here, he appeals to Arjuna's even his sense of false ego, whatever it takes. Yena kena prakarena manaha Krishna deveshayat. But that's a little bit off topic. The point is that Krishna could easily smash him in front of everybody, but he doesn't do that. Instead, idam vacha, uvacha, tam, Hrishikesha. Hrishikesha spoke to this Vishidantam. He's not named here, the depressed one, tam Vishidantam. That's what the verse says. We know that it's Arjuna. So who's Hrishikesha? What is the significance of the word Hrishikesha? Master of the senses. Hrishika. Hrishika means the senses. Hrishika Isha, the one who controls our senses. Raise your hand if you're able to control your senses. Everybody here is wise. Some people say, yeah, I can. They're young. That's called Kanishta. Kanishta means young. They think that they've got it down to everybody else is in Maya, I'm fine. No. It doesn't work like this. We can't do anything. Therefore, in the Dharma Shastra, Smriti Shastra says, there's a nice verse. As soon as we wake up in the morning, we offer one prayer, Prata Prabodhito Vishno Hrishikeshena Yatvaya. Thank you, Lord Hrishikesha. You have woken me up. It's not that your alarm clock wakes you up, because without the assistance of Paramatma, that alarm clock is going to ring forever. You see? If you know how to tie your shoes, here we don't tie shoes so much in India, but the principle is there. If you know how to put on your chappal, and don't think that these things are automatic. They are not granted. I have seen people who have lost it entirely. All their faculties gone within one lifetime. It can happen. We were mentioning about Saturn previously, or trauma, or the kinds of suffering that Krishna can visit upon us if he sees fit. We can lose everything. We can lose our money. We can lose all. Okay, how about this? You can have all your money. You can have powerful senses. You can have everything you can have, but not one friend. Anyone interested? Or how about this? You can have so many people supporting you, so much political backing. You can have money as well, health, everything, tik-tak. Lekin, nobody loves you. They will support you, but they don't love you. That's even worse, isn't it? Very famous people, they know this. Big politicians, they know this feeling. Rich people also know, because there really isn't any love in this world. Shankaracharya tells us very stridently. He tells us the cold truth. What is that? What is that? Yavad vitto parishna sakta tavan nija parivaro rakta. People in your own family, they're not attached to you. They're attached to the money that you can bring in. They're attached to the sense gratification that you can facilitate. Paschad jivati jaradehe Vartam kopina prichati gehe. Later on, when you have to live in this old decrepit body that is useless for any practical purpose and cannot gratify anyone's senses, including your own, then what happens? In your own house, nobody's going to care to ask you, how are you doing? Because they don't care. It's a fact. They send you off to a nursing home. Now the Indians, because they have such a prabala shishya bhav. I don't know how to say this in English. Strong mood of discipleship. The Indians have. Therefore, they've learned very faithfully how to lock up their parents in old age homes as well, rather than taking care of them, which really builds your character, for your information. Anyone ever taken care of their elderly parents?
8 years.
Yeah, 6 years for me, so we're kindred spirits. So this is the point. There's not really any love here. So Hrishikesha, I'm getting off topic here. Hrishikesha, the significance of that Krishna controls our senses. Krishna controls our senses. It's not guaranteed that we can do anything. There was one devotee in America, I know. One day she woke up blind. How would you process that? Anybody ready for it? Volunteers want to sign up? Raise your hand. Tomorrow morning. You ready? There's one very wise Russian lady here. She's a doctor. She told me she treats people with alternative medicine of some sort. She said every time when a patient comes, I try to speak a little bit something transcendental with them just to elevate the transaction. And she said, invariably, she said, I always ask people, okay, what if you have two choices? Choice number one, you have all material facilities, every desire in this world is fulfilled, you're very happy, you have a long, healthy life, and at the end, you go back to Godhead. Does it sound pretty good? That's option number one. Option number two is that you go back to Godhead in 5 seconds. Krishna comes and takes you by the hand, and he takes you back to Godhead. You ready to do that? She said, invariably. She said, big devotees, they come to me. Gurus I treat, sometimes sannyasis, they're not ready to do it. It's like Janardhan Maharaj said this morning. Was it this morning? I think everybody freaks out. At the time of death, you're not ready. There's a class going on right now, I think. I wanted to go to it, but my mother, she had a lifelong policy that if I ever get to the stage where they have to keep me alive artificially with like tubes and artificial, things that make my heart pump and fill my lungs and whatever, they can do this now, if the insurance companies let them. But she had this lifelong policy that, I don't want to live like that. Just let me die, if that's what it comes to. So lo and behold, it actually came to that one day. She had a massive stroke and a heart attack, same time. And she was comatose, and the doctor said she's got maybe hours to live, maybe days, not more than that. So, if she comes to, you got to ask her some tough questions. They have in America what they call DNR status, do not resuscitate. You see, that's the only thing actually that prevents, you from dying a natural. Anyway, so when she actually did come to, and we were trying to communicate with her, she was really out of it. But my sister, who had power of attorney, asked, we know that this is what you've always said. So, if we push this little switch here, then you can take maybe 1 or 2 more breaths. That's all. Are you ready? She said, no, I don't want to go there. No. So everybody freaks out at the time of death. We're not ready. This is the point. So this is all elaborating on the idea of Hrishikesha. The person who really controls our senses is Hrishikesha. The person who owns those senses, the person who created those senses, the person who maintains those senses, the person who gradually disintegrates those senses, he can control them. We cannot. What can we do? We can surrender to him, and we can beg him, please control my senses for me. So, Hrishikesha. 2 things. This, I think it's Baladev Vidabhushan, he points out here. that this verse actually harkens back to the first chapter, text number 24. There, Sanjaya Uvacha, Evam Ukto Hrishikesho Gudakeshena Bharata, Senayor Uphayor Madhye Sthapyatva Rathottamam. So he says, Hrishikesha in this verse means that now Krishna is controlling Arjuna's senses. Whereas back in the first chapter, text number 24, it was Arjun who was controlling Krishna's senses. How was Arjun controlling Krishna's senses? He said, please move my chariot in between these two armies. And Krishna submissively followed his instructions. Hrishikesha. You see? Out of love. Out of love. We can control not only our senses, but we can control Krishna himself out of love. So that's another aspect of Hrishikesha. Gudakesha, on the other hand, what does Gudakesha mean? It's a name for Arjuna. He conquers sleep. Actually, I saw this recently, I don't remember where. Some of the acharyas were commenting on this word. A and Ka, they represent Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. And Isha, that's why he has the name Keshava. He's the Lord of Ka, which is, I think it's Brahma. So, Gura, what does Gura mean? Anybody know what is Gura? In South India we call it Jaggery. So these demigods, they're like nothing but Gura for him. He eats it like a snack. This is Krishna's position vis-a-vis the demigods. In the Upanishads also, it's similarly stated. Even Lord Brahma and even Lord Shiva, these great demigods, they're nothing but Lord Vishnu's rice and pickle. That's how powerful he is. Anyway, so Hrishikesha, this is another thing. And Senayor Uphayor Madhye, we've already described. So, these are some comments that are given by our predecessor acharyas. I've mentioned Sridhar Swami, Ramanujacharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushan. Now let's hear what Srila Prabhupada has to say. Purport by His Divine Grace. The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely the Hrishikesha and the Gudakesha. As friends, both of them were on the same level. But one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Krishna was smiling because a friend had chosen to become a disciple. As Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with a disciple like a master, with gravity, as it is required. What does that gravity indicate? He wanted to laugh at Arjun. He wanted to ridicule Arjun because what Arjun said was so completely off the wall. But he controlled it. That's gravity. Gravity means, according to Nectar of Devotion, no one can understand what you're thinking. That's gravity. That's the definition given by our acharyas. We don't define words by their dictionary meanings. We actually define words by what our acharyas tell them they mean, what our acharyas say. Why is that? Because even lexicographers, that means people who write dictionaries, where do they get their definitions from, after all? Does anyone know? People who make the dictionaries get their definitions from usage. This is called arsha prayoga in Sanskrit. The usage of the rishis, liberated souls, how they understand a word. This is especially so in Sanskrit, but even in vernacular dictionaries, English and other languages, they have to find some, what they call attestation. It has to be shown that the word is used in this particular sense. You have to demonstrate that. Okay, so it appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies, so that all were benefited. This is Prabhupada's take on Senayor Upayor Madhye, which we've already described according to the predecessor acharyas. A little bit mild, very liberal. So the talks of Bhagavad-Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all. And friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them. That is the end of Srila Prabhupada's purport. Very beautiful. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? Sorry it's a little bit quick, but as I said, I'm not feeling well. And my service isn't over yet. No questions? Yes?
So there were millions of people on the battlefield.
Yes.
Huge camp. So does that mean Krishna was communicating in the heart of everyone at the same time?
Well, he certainly can. Otherwise, I don't know how he amplified the discussion. But it's certainly possible. We have to assume that everybody understood. I mean, for that matter, how did Sanjaya understand? He was also he was remote viewing, as they say. He was watching from a distance. So it's possible. How is it possible? What is that? Vyasa prasadat shrutavan? By the mercy of Krishna, Guru and Krishna. Somehow he did it. Somehow he was able to communicate it. Is that satisfactory? I don't know technically the mechanics of it, but this is the point. Somehow they understood. Yes. Because we continually fail to control them on our own. That's how we understand. They say failure is the pillar of success. If you realize that you're not controlling your senses, then you have to understand that someone else must be controlling them because they are being controlled. We wake up every day at a certain time, which means, as I said, we actually hear our alarm clock and we actually decide to wake up. So somebody's controlling that, but it's not us. If we don't believe that, then Krishna has his own way, as I mentioned. He can instill in us some faith in this principle. Rishikesha, he created the senses, he pervades the senses, both directly as the super soul Paramatma, and indirectly as those agents of his who are working on his behalf, as mid-level cosmic management, you might say. Mid-level management of the cosmic manifestation. Who are those agents? They're called devatas. Every one of our senses has a presiding deity in the form of one or another demigod. Just like eyesight, Prabhupada gives this example quite regularly. Who is the presiding deity of our eyesight? Surya, Ravi. So that deity is Krishna's representative only. Surya Narayana, we say. All the demigods, they're all actually Yas yasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha. The acharyas have commented on that verse from elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, that all the devatas and their qualifications reside in a pure devotee. Because they're already residing in everyone, but they like to stay with a devotee, because a devotee is good association. So the demigods are controlling the senses, or Krishna is directly, when we take to bhakti, as I said, then Krishna directly takes charge. It's not just an agency of karma, mayadhyakshena prakriti. He's not only working through his external energy and her various subordinate agents, but Krishna himself also directly reciprocates with us in accordance with our devotion. Yayatha mam prapadyante tanstataiva bhajami. So in this way, if we surrender to Krishna and we ask Krishna to control our senses, then he will do so. If we can control our senses, it should be understood that it's because of the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Yes.
Sometimes senses are going in wrong direction, so who is responsible for going in wrong direction?
This is a very good question. Our senses sometimes go astray. Bilva Mangala Thakur has written a very nice shloka in which he's also described this. What is the Sanskrit word for senses? Anybody know? There are a few of them, but Indriya is one. Anything else? Rishika, anything else? Go. What does go mean, other than senses? Go ka matlab kya hai? Huh? Gai, yes, cow. So Bill Mangala Thakur says, my dear Lord of the cowherds, Gopal, my senses are running all over the place. They're off the path. You have to do something about this. If your responsibility is Gopala, who can imagine that even in dreams, the Lord of the cowherds would ever even think to lose a cow? And here you've got, how many senses do we have? How many senses do we have? 5 major gross senses. You've got 5 of them and they're all going astray. Please help. This is how we control the senses. What's the easy prayer? That you don't have to learn that Sanskrit shloka, but it's there. The easy prayer is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we sincerely do bhajan and become nishtha in this chanting, then Krishna will reciprocate, Zurur. He will definitely reciprocate. Is that okay? Yes.
You were saying Krishna was ready to take us away in 5 seconds. Are we ready? And then you were saying how there's a devotee nurse who says that even some senior devotees don't seem ready. But what if they don't seem ready because they feel like they have a responsibility of doing service in this world, so they want to...
That's a different thing. That's what the Buddhists call the bodhisattvas. We have similar concept. Paradukha dukhi, the devotee who is very advanced, who has already controlled his senses and has developed all good qualities in association with Krishna and his representatives. That devotee he's blessed by Krishna. So that devotee can actually think to pray in the way that Prahlad Maharaj prays. What does Prahlad pray? Swasti astu vishvasya. May, anybody know this verse? Swasti astu vishvasya. It's for the universe. May the whole universe be auspicious. But there's a problem with that, because if you're wishing well for the entire universe, then in effect that prayer also empowers the demons, doesn't it? Yes. Therefore, he says, Khala prasidatam, but may the demons be pacified. Or, how are you going to pacify these demons? Their senses are insatiable. Their lust is infinite. Their anger is frightening. How are you going to pacify these rascals? Then he says, Swastyastu vishvasya khala prasidatam. What is the next line? Anybody know? Dhyayantu bhutani shivam mithodhya. If they can somehow meditate on each other's welfare instead of trying to exploit each other. As soon as we enter any situation, isn't it, we start looking around and calculating, what are the threats and what can I get from this? And, this is demoniac consciousness. We all have it to one degree or another. But Prahlad says if they can somehow pray for each other's welfare instead, well, that's a tall order, you might say. Therefore, he says, Manashta bhadram. First, the mind has to become bhadra. How does the mind become bhadra? Bhadra means auspicious. What do we know about auspiciousness from Srimad Bhagavatam? 2nd canto, 2nd chapter. That's a hint. Shrindatam sakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridiyantasto hi abhadrani. We want the bhadra things, we don't want the abhadra things. Abhadra means inauspicious things, in other words, anarthas. So they have to undergo anartha nivritti. How are the demons going to undergo anartha nivritti? If you can somehow convince them to take up this process of bhakti-yoga. Manashtabhadram bhajatad adhokshaje. If they can somehow, actually the word bhaj doesn't really mean so much, it means worship also, but what else does bhaj mean in addition to worship? Anybody know? No scholars here? No. Huh? No. Seva, not exactly. Worship is good. To worship with love, that's bhaja, but actually another meaning of bhaja that not so well known maybe is to participate, or to distribute, or to share. This is also bhaja. So, if you become Krishna conscious, and you share that Krishna consciousness with others, then their minds could also become bhadra. You engage them. Even you can't convince them, that's fine. Everybody eats. You feed them. But don't feed them ordinary things. Feed them prasadam. And it works. It really works. I've seen this practically over many years. Prasadam is very, very powerful. Mahaprasada govinde nama brahmani vaishnave salpa punyavatam. Somebody who has very little piety, he can't put his faith in prasadam. But prasadam really works. It is so powerful. Don't think otherwise. So you engage them. Manasya bhadram bhajatara dhokshaje aveshyatam no matirapi ahituki. And Prahlad says, my prayer is that we all enter more and more deeply into this consciousness. And what is the primary characteristic of this consciousness? Ahituki. No hetu. What does hetu mean? Hetu means a purpose, an agenda, we say in modern parlance. You've got a motive, you see. If you can somehow engage someone in devotional service and somehow get them to do something without a motive for Krishna, then it starts the process of manashtabhadram bhajatara dhokshaje. This is your question. It's a long answer. Am I getting off track, or you're happy with it?
Yeah, I think Tripurari Maharaj told at one point that he didn't want to go back to God, and he just wanted to come back and distribute books, and Prabhupada said, that's my goal. Just something like that.
Yeah. If you're actually on that platform, then that is ideal for sure. That was Prabhupada's example, wasn't it? Prabhupada gave us that example. On other occasions, Prabhupada told other devotees that you're not ready to desire like this. Be realistic. Why? Because discretion is the better part of valor, he also said. You have to I think it was Bhanabhatta the other day said, you have to really have a realistic assessment of where you stand in devotional service and not try to, people come here to Vrindavan all the time and they have such high designs about crashing the gates of the spiritual world, so to speak, but the adhikar is missing. How are you going to worry about getting the mercy of Lalita Devi if you can't even get the mercy of your own guru? This is the point. First deserve, Prabhupada said, then desire. The desire should be commensurate to our own adhikar. This is the point. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes.
It says that you have deep knowledge about astrology, and you spoke about
I have deep experience with astrology. I don't know about knowledge.
So during my Rahu Datta, I was seeking some relief from some gods and goddesses. So I got relief from Shiva.
Yes.
During this Dasha, Mahadasha, and even from Goddess Saraswati. But when I visited Krishna, Dwarika, he gave me money instead of any relief from Rahu Datta. I wanted the relief, but he gave me money because he's a king.
Kaun, Krishna?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the next day itself, he gave me a little job,
Acha.
But there was no relief from this Krishna.
There's no telling what he's going to do. We don't know. Krishna is completely unfettered. Therefore, Srimati Radharani, her prayer is actually the most appropriate for all times, places, and circumstances. What did she say? Ashlishyiva paradatam panishtamam adarshanatham maramahatam kadodava. Very strong thing, she says. Yathathatava viridhatu lambata. She calls him a lambata. You can do anything to me, and you will, I know it. Sometimes he can give us $1 million if he wants. Don't get any bright ideas. Or he can really smash us as well, like we were reading before. He had an opportunity, and he certainly had the ability, and he had valid reasons as well. He could have really let Arjuna have it, but he was nice, because that is Krishna's nature as Parama Kripalu. So how he's going to take shelter, what he's going to do, how he's going to reciprocate, we can't know this. There's a very beautiful verse in Padyavali, Rupa Goswami, Padyavali. He says it's people, they worship Krishna, even ardently, with great sincere devotion, they're worshiping Krishna, and he ignores their requests. But if you just exist in Vrindavan for some time, without any question of whether you're doing any bhajan or not, then Bhakti Devi will, Vraja Devi, she will give you pure devotion. This is in the Padyavali, Rupa Goswami. Therefore we take shelter not so much of Krishna here, but we take shelter of Srimati Radharani and her representatives. This is the key. They're soft-hearted. They know what it's like to be a devotee. Srimati Radharani also, she's complaining about Krishna just like we do. She knows very much. She knows very well what is it. How else can she call him Lamparta? It's such a strong word. It's a very, very strong word.
What does that mean?
Rascal, debauch, the cur, cad, rascal, jerk, whatever you want to say. I mean, it's a very strong word. So, we take shelter of the Lord's internal devotees. That's called Raganuga Bhakti. And we don't have adhikar, but we still worship them anyway. And then we pray that someday I'll get some adhikar. Okay? So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but this is the way things are, what to do. This is how Krishna is. Anything else?
Just over here.
Yes, please.
Thanks for the class. I know that his opponent wanted Krishna's army, and Arjuna got Krishna himself. But I get a little bewildered when the chariot goes between the two armies, and Krishna is addressing Arjuna. Is the other side not listening? They're not taking the nectar? They're not absorbing what Krishna is, all of the great things Krishna is saying?
Are we? Think about it. Are we? We're hearing every day. We're seeing Krishna every day. We're getting good instruction we're even chanting. But are we really taking it in? Case in point. That's why this battlefield happened, to show. He saw the universal flow. He knew everything. Janami dharmam nachame pravritti. Janami adharmam nachame nivritti. Duryodhana ne kaha. That I know what is dharma, but I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. Just like the Christians, they have this saying that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And he said, on the other hand, janami adharmam. I know what is adharma, but nachame nivritti. I can't stop myself. This is the dridha vrata of the demon. Griha vratanam, Prahlad Maharaj calls it. People who have dedicated, they've made the decision in life, this is what I'm going for, and they're going to come up to a certain point. They won't budge after that point. I used to work with people like this. I was in the University of Washington, Department of Asian Language and Literature. And those people know our books better than most of us do. But they won't surrender even that much. This is the problem. Therefore he says, Manasya Bhadram Bhajatarathokshaje. May the demons be pacified by somehow being engaged in a devotional service. That's where the devotees come in. If we get mercy from devotees, whether they're Srimati Radharani or Srila Prabhupada or the person sitting next to you, if we get some mercy, if we're receptive to that mercy, if we take the mercy, then we've got some chance. Otherwise, Good luck. Is that okay?
Thank you. It is good.
Yeah. All right, anything else? None, then we'll stop here. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.